Hey, everybody, welcome back to Gone Outdoor Radio. You're listening to Kello News Talk or KWSN in the South Dakota area. You are listening to our special South Dakota edition of Gone Outdoors with Scotty Brewer, Kyle Agri, and in this segment we have Ty Brouwer. Ty is our Gone Outdoor predator expert. We like to get him on once a year, sometimes twice a year, to talk predator management, predator control. And again, that's what we're talking to him about. How you doing, Ty?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for the invite again.
So there's a lot of guys that have a lot of hunting land out in our listening area, and they do everything they can. They plant food plots, they work out in the woods, they do all kinds of things to try and increase the herds, or out in the fields if they're working with pheasants. But one thing that a lot of people do tend to overlook is predator control, and that it can play a huge, huge part in the quality of their herd, the quality of their birds, whatever it is. So let's talk about that a little bit. Coyotes in North Dakota, or
Yeah,
in the Dakotas and southern Minnesota, have to be close to the top of the list for predators.
I 100% agree. I feel like this year is going to be a really good year for coyote hunting. And the reason I say that is because my backyard, and I live out in the country, is full of rabbits. And when there's food, there's predators. And I've talked to a lot of farmers in the area just when they're out harvesting crops. The amount of coyotes and even a few fox now, there's starting to be some more sightings of them. But the amount of coyotes that these guys are kicking up out of these fields have just been crazy this year. So, they had a good crop, or good birth rate this year, and I think the numbers are up. There's a lot of food for them. Last winter was a pretty, I don't know, tame winter, if you want to say that, but it was easier on them, so they were able to reproduce and breed a little bit more. And so now us hunters, we're going to have a little bit more game to go after.
Ty, you mentioned fox in there, and you mentioned it just in the context of you're actually seeing more of them, as if they've been kind of scarce the last few years. How come that's been?
I don't know scientifically or biologically, but I honestly firmly believe that fox and coyote don't get along. And when there's coyotes around, they push the fox out, kill the fox. That's more competition for the coyotes. Um, and over the last few years, the coyote numbers have been a little light, in my opinion, especially where I'm at. And I think that's why there were some more fox, and you're starting to see them. But now with more prey and all that, and these farmers seeing more coyotes, that might change that answer here come next year when we visit again on the numbers of fox around. But yeah, we had a bunch of guys that saw fox running around this fall.
So when is the best time to get out there and hunt coyotes? I know there's a lot of it done in the winter time. Is this a good time to get out and chase after them, or not really?
Honestly, I love this time of year because now that we're done with slug season, and the coyotes, they're kind of all dispersed, but the pups, they've split from the den, so they're trying to find their areas, so they're a little bit easier to call right now. They're trying to find a place to winter, and there's a lot of movement with these coyotes, and I feel like you can catch them, running these line fences, running these rivers and these creeks. They're trying to find areas to live, and with the calling and them being young, they're not accustomed to that, so they're going to be more prone to come into those calls.
So I'm guessing that if you want to be a very, very successful, it's kind of like with fishing or any hunting. You can go as crazy as you want on gear, on time, all of that. If somebody wants to just start out going predator hunting, going coyote hunting, do they have to go out and buy all kinds of stuff initially?
No, I mean, you can get yourself a nice rifle for $400, a nice scope for $200, and then you go buy yourself a call. You can get them for about $100. So let's say you're into this for $600-700, and you can do a lot of damage. You can call coyotes. You don't need the thermals, which they're fun. Don't get me wrong. Silencers are an addition. The updated bipods, tripods, the larger calls, the seats. There's so much gear that a guy can pick with, but to get down to the dirty and the basics, a rifle, a scope, and a call, and that's all you need.
Well, there you go. That is a relatively inexpensive way to get out there and protect some of the deer, some of the pheasant, some of the turkey on your land. All right. So there are a lot of other predators out there. You mentioned foxes already. How about skunks, raccoons, those kind of things? Because I know there are a few pheasants in South Dakota. There's a few pheasants in southern Minnesota, and those are some of the top predators.
Yeah, and like you had mentioned, Scott, the raccoons. There are raccoons everywhere in everybody's grove and wood piles, and they are so hard on these ground nesting birds, especially like you had said, our pheasants. They're hunting for the eggs in the spring, and once those eggs are gone, that's our crop of pheasants for the year. So, depending on where you're at, you're going to want to check to see if there's a season on the particular predator you're going after, like raccoons or skunks. I know in Minnesota here there is a season on raccoons, but you can go down a river bottom and you go about 100 yards and you put some fighting coon call sounds on. They'll come barreling out of a tree and chasing after that call. And then once you harvest those, you can drive about 150 yards and do the same thing. And these coons, they'll jump out of those trees. They'll come looking for a fight because they don't want anybody in their territory. And I tell you, if you want to get a kid into hunting and you want some action-packed fun, try raccoon hunting. It is one of the best hunts that I've done. It is so fun.
Yeah, and that sounds like a total blast is to get a kid out. And if you don't have a kid, grab the neighbor kid, get some kid out there because it's great target practice and it's a great way to control them a little bit. And Kyle, I'm pretty sure if we've looked at some of your trail camera photos, I'm pretty sure you've seen a coon or two over the last few months because I know we only got a couple trail cameras out. And man, they are all over every night. It's amazing. You could sit in a deer stand all day long and you don't see a raccoon one bit or sign of a raccoon. But then at night, they come out like they're coming out of the woodwork. And that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, they're coming out of the woodwork.
Hordes of them.
Hordes is exactly right too. And yep, coyotes on the trail cameras. We've had a few of the fox as well on our farm, and raccoons. Even seen a raccoon and a coyote while sitting on stand this year. Ty, I know that we're predator hunting. We're helping our game birds, our game animals survive and thrive on our land. But there's also the benefit of being able to keep the fur. When is prime furring for these predators if someone's looking to get a pelt?
When we're out coyote hunting, we're usually trying to target the prime pelts in that January to February, early March time frame, right when it's in the heart of the cold. Anytime after, mid-March is when everything's starting to slowly melt and they're starting to shed some of their good furs and all that. So my prime is, the January 1st, if not a little bit on the end of December in through February. And that's what our 2.5 months is. That's our window for prime fur.
That's awesome. And I think, Ty, and we have Nick Harrington on here on our last segment of today's show. Nick works for South Dakota Game and Fish, and I'm pretty sure, and Nick can confirm this for us later, that South Dakota does have a bounty on predator tails so that you can send them into the state and they will pay you a certain amount because they know how big of a problem this is. Ty, we really appreciate you coming on Gone Outdoors. Where can people find you if they got any questions?
We've got our Coyote Hunt Facebook page that we host out of Marshall. It's our Buffalo Ridge Coyote Hunting. You can just go there and all our information, dates, and events are right on that Facebook page.
All right. Thank you very much, Ty. We appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Good talking to you.
Stick around. We will be back with the second half of today's Gone Outdoors after the short break. Looking for somewhere to get all your fishing information in one place? onX Fish Midwest has something for you. Search for new fishing areas with filtering features such as species abundance, trophy potential, lake survey info, regulations, and area insights are just a click away.
Getting to your target lake has never been easier with access points and public land ownership clearly marked on onX Fish. Mark and customize waypoints and weather for your exact location. Use code BA Outdoors to get 20% off onX Fish Midwest at onxmaps.com.